One of my favorite things about doing the Rice Kill Eat podcast is being able to connect with people from all across the country that have the same passion for hunting and the outdoors and a passion for pursuing God and growing in their relationship with Him. That remains true today with my guest AJ Howard. AJ is the founder of Unbounded Pursuit, a video and content resource for people who love the outdoors and love Jesus. AJ and I have a great conversation about life, hunting, and our relationship with God, and I really think you guys are going to enjoy this episode. But before I get to that, I wanted to ask you guys to connect with me on my social media outlets for this show. I love being able to connect with you guys from all across the country, and I've really enjoyed the Rice Kill Eat podcast, and it allows me to hear your voice and your thoughts about this show. You can find me on Instagram at the handle at Rice Kill Eat, on Facebook at URL facebook.com/RKE Afield. That's RKE as in Rice Kill Eat Afield. And then I am now on Twitter where I may share some stuff going on with the podcast as well as some thoughts I may have or whatever it may be. But you guys can find me at the handle at RKE Afield on Twitter. Also, I want to ask that if you guys enjoy what you hear today or any other time on the Rice Kill Eat podcast, that you leave a rating and a review. So this helps a ton in being able to organically promote the show and the mission of sharing our love for God, freedom, and the great outdoors. So leave a rating, leave a review on the platform that you are listening through. So I don't have a ton of announcements today, so I wanted to keep this short and simple. That way we can get to my conversation with AJ of Unbounded Pursuit. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and get to that conversation with AJ Howard of Unbounded Pursuit, and I hope you enjoy the show. AJ, so how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Over here in Kentucky. It's just pretty cool talking to you in Washington online and all the way, across the country and everything. And it's pretty crazy how we actually met, how we actually started talking, because I had made an Instagram post and I think I ended up tagging you guys in it.
Yeah.
Because what I ended up was doing was I was going through and I was trying to max out how many people I could tag onto a post that I was making. I don't remember which one it was, but a post I was making, and I was trying to find people with some similar audiences to what I was looking for, and of course, coincidentally, found you guys, Unbounded Pursuit, and tagged you guys in there. You reached out to me, and we just started talking from there. And we started talking about the podcast. I was like, man, I think I'm going to end up having this guy on, because I started looking at some of your content, some of your videos and that kind of thing, and it was really cool. So I appreciate you being on the Rice Kill Eat podcast with me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is the first one I've been on, and like you said, I've been just trying to connect with a bunch of people with the same kind of audience or view, and of course, part of Unbounded Pursuit is to reach out to other people. So I'm gonna have to pick your brain later about how you found more like people on the Insta page, because I'm trying to do that all the time. And so when I saw that you tagged us, I of course checked out your profile and immediately saw that you had a love and passion for Christ, and I was like, oh sweet, I gotta connect with this guy, because I'm always just trying to find more people to talk to, connect with, and then what we'll talk about later with our LookUp series, getting more people to share verses and reach out to more people.
Heck yeah, man. That's exactly what this podcast, this whole deal is about. Is just, our slogan is, God, freedom, and the great outdoors. It's the whole gist of what I want the show to be about, is just pursuing God, pursuing Jesus, pursuing our Creator, of course, pursuing freedom in Jesus, and then pursuing freedom as Americans. And then, of course, we doing that going out into the outdoors and hunting and fishing and, just camping, just being outside and just being able to, appreciate what God has given us through our pursuits of the outdoors. So whenever I saw that was something that you guys enjoy doing and you guys valued as well, I just knew I had to have you on here. So we were talking a minute ago how you are a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
And, you said elementary, right?
preschool and elementary special ed.
Man, you are brave because I am. I, I teach middle school, and that is about as far down as I could go as far as like age level goes. Because man, it's just a whole different ball game. And I've got a well, I guess now he's a first grader. He was reminding me today because his last school year is over with now.
Yep.
So I've got a first grader now, and I've got a preschooler. And man, imagining that times about I don't know 15, 20. It's just I can imagine
Yeah,
it.
I only have like 5 or 6 at a time, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I that middle school group is fun. I the last couple years have helped coach middle school wrestling and track, and that's a whole different ball game for than elementary for sure.
Definitely is, definitely is. So you enjoy coaching and getting out and doing that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, I did a bunch of different sports in school, but wrestling's the only one that I really. I mean, track's fun as well, but wrestling is definitely where my heart lies with coaching.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I played a lot of football. I coached some football for a few years and hoping to get back into it eventually. But I can definitely understand that. That's it's coaching is there's very few things that are that rewarding. Being able to especially having a group of young kids that don't really understand the game yet, so being
Hmm.
able to kind of mold them and teach them you know strategies and that kind of thing. I guess wrestling would be a little bit different because it's a one-on-one deal, but at the same time I guess there are some similarities, but being able to mold them and teach them strategies and being able to watch them mature and grow, it's really cool.
It is. It's a blast for sure.
Of course, I wanted to have you on here to do some talking about hunting and that kind of thing. So, where did your hunting journey? Did all of it start? I mean, most people I know they start out pretty young. For me, I started out whenever I was like an early teenager, doing some whitetail hunting and stuff over here in Kentucky. So, what did that look like for you as a guy over in Washington? So, what's that look like for you?
So I did not grow up hunting. Um, Actually, it kind of all resonated around when I met my now wife. We started dating a decade ago this last week, and her dad and stepdad were big hunter guys. Um, and I'm kind of more of a people pleaser person and more of that route. So like going camping with them, I hated coffee. They always like, "Hey, you want a cup of coffee?" Oh, sure. I'll drink a black cup of coffee. This is disgusting, but yeah, it's good. Um, and then began to love coffee, and I drink a lot more of it now. But kind of happened with hunting as well. So I started when I was 19. um, I met my at the time girlfriend when I was 17. Went off, wrestled for a quarter in college, and then it's kind of around hunting season. I did an online thing, came back, and then went hunting with her stepdad, and it was awesome. I was hooked right off the gate, and the very first experience was mule deer hunting, and we're going up the hill early morning. I have a gun, but I'm borrowing his bullets. We get up on the top of the hill. I had forgotten the bullets, so I had to run back. They waited for me. I'm all flustered. I get back, and then they're like, "Oh, there's a deer." So we ran to the top of the ridge, popped over, and there was a giant bull elk with a herd of cows. And he just bugled first thing in the morning in the sunrise, and it was just game over.
Right at that point, you knew you had to get back out there.
Oh man. And ever since then I've dived into videos and books and magazines and articles, and I used to be kind of a hobby jumper, and this is all I do now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll definitely hook you like that. I've had some pretty incredible experiences like that as well. Not necessarily with elk, but I mean, there's all kinds of views that we get to see when we're in the outdoors that just take your breath away. It's
They're
really cool, and
incredible.
it's yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So, as somebody who's kind of started a little bit later, I mean, you said you were 19, so as somebody who started, what kind of things do you think that you appreciate more because of that? I guess what I'm trying to say is somebody at that starts out earlier. I think
Yeah.
they kind of take some things for granted because
Hmm.
I mean, like it's something that so and so did I first went hunting whenever I was 5 or something like that. They may
Mhm.
take it for granted as they're coming up, but being somebody that started much later, what are some things that you appreciate that more because you started later that you wouldn't necessarily appreciate if you, I guess, were doing it your entire life?
Yeah, and that actually kind of connects with my story of how I came to Jesus. Um, so my wife and I have kind of done everything together. She's not. I mean, she just shot her first year last year because we have a little boy who pounds the meat. Um, but
Heck yeah.
but otherwise, she's not a big hunter. Her sisters are, and her family. But we both, I guess, came to Christ in our late. I was early 20s, and I think she was 20, somewhere in there. Anyways, we didn't grow up in it necessarily. Same with hunting. We came to it later, realized, our need for Christ and how we were living our life. And I guess we've been talking a lot about like if we had grown up in it, because we know a lot of people that have, of course. They're either, oh, I've already read that before, so I'm not going to read into it again and try to learn something new, or I don't really know how to explain it. It's like they already, I guess, take it for granted what it's about, and I think maybe people with hunting are like that. Not everyone, of course, but in the same way, where if they grew up in it, they've always kind of just done it. Everything has gone a certain way. They have these certain traditions, which is could be really, really cool. Um, but I guess to me, it's still like this brand new thing that I'm still trying to grasp and learn. And at this point, I'm 27, so I've hunted for about 8 years. And I know I'm never going to learn everything and know everything. And I hope that I keep that and don't get to this like cocky mindset that I know everything and everything's going to go my way, which it doesn't help the last 8 years, especially 3 years since or 2 years that I moved to the east side of Washington. And I've had my best hunting seasons yet. I think still being new and still trying to learn everything, and like I've only dabbled in fishing a little bit and I really want to learn, so I'm always continually learning and trying to find new things and share that information with others because I'm hungry for that information, so I'm assuming other people are too. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely does. And I think what you're getting at is that like basically you're able to challenge yourself, by learning something new. I mean, because and being somebody that is getting into hunting later, like you're able to establish your own traditions. Like
Hmm.
I know for a lot of people who start out, 3, 4, 5 years old, going with their grandpa or their dad, whoever it may be, they have those family traditions that they want to keep alive. And there, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But being somebody in, kind of like in your position where you got into it later, you're able to establish traditions now that you'll be able to pass down to your kids,
Yeah, and
and
that's what
being
I'm
able
excited about.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to is that being somebody who got into hunting much later, it gives you the opportunity to be able to share the things that you have learned like on your own. You didn't really have somebody to teach you necessarily. I mean, at least from a young, uh, a younger point in your life, you didn't necessarily have somebody there to teach you, and everything you're learning now is going to be all raw, real stuff that you learned by trial and error. So yeah, I can definitely appreciate that, and I can definitely see where you're coming from with that one.
Yeah, it was exactly what you said. I didn't have someone teach me when I was younger, and I've done all this research and reached out to people and tried to talk to people. And one really incredible thing with meeting my wife is both of her dads were awesome. I mean, hunters. They knew so much, just a wealth of information. And her grandparents and her cousins alone are some of my closest friends, and her sisters are machines. Um, so I kind of had a really good base once I did start, and they are still teaching me all the time. I've just also done additional research.
Yeah, and I found that, like you were saying a minute ago, that when you get to a point to where you think you know a lot, I've especially found this a lot with like Eastern turkey hunting, which is what we have over here,
Hmm.
is that right when you think you got it figured out, I mean, the animals will let you know that you don't.
Yeah.
They are very good at humiliating and humbling people. Well, especially, I think a lot of people, at least, being able to humble people and be able to show them, like, no, like, you don't quite have it figured out. We can, things are going to happen that you just don't necessarily have the experience and don't necessarily you can't necessarily prepare for. And I think that's definitely the case, and that's something that you can only figure out, by getting into the field. So what's your story of faith like? I mean, you're mentioning how you came to know Christ, how you came to know Jesus, and what's that look like for you?
So my wife and I, we always had this like urge to go to church and learn, but and I mean both of her grandparents, dedicated church members. They would always talk about it, but we never went to a church in particular or did any really digging. Um, we just knew we wanted to set ourselves up for the best odds. We both come from divorced and remarried families, and they're both great. I mean, her stepdad, my stepdad, we have siblings, additional grandparents, but we want to beat that 50%. And so I don't know how we came to it, but I don't know if someone mentioned premarital counseling or if we just happened to start going to church and heard about it. Um, but I think we were engaged, and I asked a buddy's dad who I knew was a pastor or an associate pastor or something if he would marry us. So we started going through maybe that's where the premarital came from. Anyways, we started meeting with him. He encouraged us, of course, to go to a church. We picked a local church, um, and then I don't know what happened with him, but we kind of just really dove into this church, and we ended up asking that pastor about premarital counseling. So on the first session, we meet him. We're starting to get to know each other, and he's like, "I don't think you guys have been saved yet. I think you have the right idea, and you want to like do good and be good, I guess, but you're not like saved." And so we kind of asked more questions, and we were like, "Yes, yeah, that's what we want." And so then it turned away from premarital counseling in a way, and it went into us praying and asking for forgiveness, and you know stating that we know that we're sinners and that we've sinned. And um, yeah, it turned into just like an awesome, like goosebump kind of night. And he was like, "Well, I know you guys live together." We were like, "I hope you weren't gonna bring that up." uh, and I mean, I guess we technically did it. We feel like it's a little cheating in a way, but we were renting a house across the road, like 400 yards away from her parents. It was 3 months before we got married, and he was just talking to us. He's like, "I mean, if I'm gonna go through this, we're gonna go full hearted, and you can't be living together." So that night, I was like, let's just do one more night." And by the time we left, we decided, well, you got to go for this. So she moved back in with her parents for 3 months until we got married, and then she moved back over. And yeah, we've been just digging and going full hearted and learning about marriage and relationships. And by no means are we perfect. We struggle with reading every day and devotionals and stuff, but we're always just trying to be better. um, and it's been quite a journey, and God has opened some incredible doors for us, and we've been just ready to capitalize. And um, super super thankful for a lot of the blessings that He's blessed us with.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of similarities. I mean, the Apostle Paul, of course, he mentions it a lot, that there's a lot of similarities between marriage and Christ and the church. And of course, that's the
Hmm.
the big C church, the Christians, the believers. And I think there's a lot that we as husbands can learn, because I'm married also. A lot that we can learn as husbands by seeing how Christ, loves the church, and how Christ, is willing to lay down his life for the church. I think that that's pretty neat that you guys were able to go through that process together, of course, in your premarital counseling, and that's pretty cool that you're able to eventually, of course, fall in love with Jesus and be able to continue to pursue him. And of course, that's something that never really ends. At least I hope it doesn't. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And
So hopefully it's something that goes on for eternity, really.
yep. And that's been, I don't know, this is what we've kind of talked about a lot, is like, are we gonna let our kids date in high school? We did stupid stuff. Um, but she was a freshman, I was a junior. Um, we've grown together this entire time. We've done everything together. We've spent so much time, and now we just hit 10 years, and I'm 27 and she's about to turn 25. And so we were saved together, a week later baptized together. Um, we've just done everything, and that's definitely is something that I would say, like, with when you meet someone, it's so hard because you don't know what love and all that stuff truly is. Um, but you can make it as you grow up, I guess. Because we definitely have selfish tendencies, of course, and we do things for our own want. But I think because we've been together and from so young, all of our world ideas and everything have been shaped together for each other. I mean, she knows if I buy a soda, not because she demands to know, but we're just, I don't know, we just feel like we're so connected that I don't know.
You have an open line of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
So we just grow together and shape life together.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's something that all married couples should do. If there is, a spouse that is, it could be husband or wife that is, purposefully trying to hide things from the other one, I think that's automatically a red flag. I mean,
Totally.
the Bible tells us that, in Genesis, that whenever we become married, man and the woman become one flesh. That's literally what that means. You guys are now the same person. I mean, you're the same person. You're living life together. Just exactly what you're saying. I mean, so that goes for all aspects of life, whether it's buying a house, whether it's buying a car, having children, or buying a soda. I mean,
Exactly.
being one flesh with your wife. I mean, that's exactly how marriage was intended to be, and that's something that
Yeah.
I think a lot of married people get away from. And you were mentioning the 50%, the divorce rate, that kind of thing. I think a lot of it stems from that. It's
Mm-hmm.
because there's two different people trying to live two different lives, and
Yeah.
eventually they keep tearing and tearing each other apart, and eventually it falls apart, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't have that unity that with what you're mentioning. That's pretty interesting. That's cool that you guys were able to do that, and you guys have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And that's what I was trying to or say earlier is, man, the blessings. And one thing she's talked about more frequently is like, man, there's so much good. Is something bad gonna happen? Everyone says there's always something bad gonna happen. But we're just trying not to live in fear. But I had a quick little side note because I kind of laughed about it earlier, and you can get rid of this if you want. But when you were talking about the one flesh,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like one who likes to push the boundaries and say a little off colored, but not like
Right.
you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got
So
you.
the running joke with us is she'll say something, I'll be like, we're supposed to be one flesh, tonight, one flesh. And so,
Right. Yeah, that's part of it too, definitely.
so when we were like reading stuff, we got this marriage devotional we're doing with her sister and husband and cousin and wife. And there was just one flesh, one flesh, one flesh over and over. And we couldn't even read that darn thing because I was I was laughing so hard. But I mean, that's the kind of like off-colored stuff I like to be like, well, when you get married, you're supposed to be one flesh. So
That's
we'll
true.
see you
That's
guys
true.
later.
That's definitely the case, and I think a lot of married couples that aren't pursuing that, I think that's causing a lot of issues in their marriage as well. Definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's another thing. we're married. Why can't we talk about it? It's like you're not
Exactly.
allowed to
Yeah.
talk about it anymore.
Right.
With other
Yeah.
people, I'm like, you're married, I'm married, it's fine, it's great.
Right, exactly, as long as you're keeping it within those confines or those the confines of marriage, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Sorry, that was a
That
side note.
no, that no, that's funny, I appreciated that one, that one's pretty cool. But no, that's really cool that you guys are able to have that kind of relationship and be able to do that, and of
Mhm,
course, that's I'm sure that's carried over with what you're doing now with Unbounded Pursuit. I'm sure that's something that, I know with my wife, with this, Rice Elite podcast and all the things I'm trying to do with it, she's like my number one counsel. If I've got an idea, I go and ask her. It's like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think I should do with this? Or how should I approach this kind of thing? So with Unbounded Pursuit, did she play a part in your motivation for starting this? And how did you end up starting Unbounded Pursuit?
in the beginning, I was kind of a part of a group similar, but it turned into, like, you need to post this many times a week, or you can't be a part of the group anymore, we need content, content, content. You can use these discount codes, and then once if you're not a part of the group, you're kind of done, and it kind of just soured me. And I decided, well, hey, I'm gonna start one of these kinds of things. Um, and then I went with my now brother-in-law. He was dating my sister-in-law at the time, and I kind of mentioned to him, and he's like, "Hey, I was thinking about starting something like this too." So then, we're out camping in the snow up in the mountains, and we just start going over stuff and ideas. We get back, and him and his wife are at our house, and we're just talking to it about our wives. And my wife had this great idea. She was like, pick all the words that would go, you know, um, that would fit this, I guess. Write them down, and then start mix and matching these words to come up with this name. And it took us a long time, and we actually came out with one, and it's a great group of guys in Idaho, Limitless Outdoors. And we're like, oh, Limitless Outdoors, sweet. This is what we're going with. Type it into, Google or whatever. There's a website. Go to Facebook. There's a group. Instagram. There's a group. We're like, come on. We just spent hours and we had this. So we go back and we're looking at it. And then I don't know if we were looking at books or magazines or something. And I don't remember for sure if the first word was bound or pursuit. But I know we first came to bound later, and then we're like, well, we don't want to be bound. We want to pursue Christ and His creation and hunting unbounded. We don't want to be constrained to, like, you have to do it this way or that way. We want to kind of find and create our own way and then share that. And then pursuit, just was perfect because we're pursuing this unconstrained passion for God and the outdoors. Um, so they were with that and that, and so we started Unbounded and started Instagram and made a Facebook because it seemed like that's what you're supposed to do. And then made a YouTube channel. And this November, I think, marks 3 years. So we've 2.5. And it's just been crazy the amount that I've changed personally, think and do. And yeah, and bringing up the part with your wife, I definitely bounce ideas off of her, but that's been the one thing we haven't been perfectly jiving on, um, because we also feel like people spend too much time on their phones, and now I'm trying to create videos that get people to look at their phones or create content that people are spending looking at their phones because too many people, kids get stuck behind video games. They don't, parents aren't interacting, or they want to stay true to what they're doing, like their own hobbies, so much that their kids kind of get left in the dust. So it's been this weird kind of conflict of interest, I guess. And then I'm kind of more of like, people are looking at their phones. Why not try to fill it with positivity? Because there's so much negative garbage on social media, but there's also been so much good. I've met so many awesome people and connected with and learned from, and from all over the state and now all over the country. even people up in Canada and whatnot. So there's a lot of good, and I would rather, if people are going to look at their phones, because I mean, it's like an addiction,
Yeah, it
I'd
really is.
rather have them reading stuff about, Bible verses, or, listening to podcasts like this where they're definitely learning and pursuing your own passions. It's not like that's a bad thing. But when your kid gets stuck behind a screen so you can do your passion, that's where it kind of gets muddy. And I hope I don't really anger people, but being in
No,
the
it's the truth. It's the
field
truth.
of
You go for
teaching,
it.
and my previous job was a behavior specialist on the west side of the state. I mean, a lot of things are bred through parenting, and schools aren't there to parent; they're to teach about life and about academics and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I This might have gone on a big, weird, long tangent, but
No, you're good because I definitely agree because I think like you were saying, so many people they will sit there, they will spend the majority of the day, scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Instagram.
Mhm.
Most of the time, it's mindless, mind numbing stuff where there's like no interaction with what they're actually doing,
Yeah,
and I think it's important that just like anything really, just like I mean you could even use the same logic for reading even, but I mean it depends on what you are putting in. It depends on the input that you're putting in. Like you're
mhm.
saying, you're trying to create something that's going to be positive for people. You're trying to create something that's going to be, beneficial for people in their spiritual walk or maybe in their hobbies or whatever it may be. And if people are using some time on social media and where they're consuming this kind of content to where to the point that what it's allowing them to have some kind of benefit and be able to improve their life even just a little bit, then I think it's good. But like you were saying, there's a balance that some people have to have as far as being able to discipline themselves to occasionally put the phone down and interact with your kids and
Yeah,
read a book, read your Bible, tell your wife you love her, and have that family time away from phones and away from screens. That's something that we try to do here in my house just about every day. I mean, just today I was telling my kids to put their video game up and let's go outside and play some soccer or something. So it was. I think it's important that we have those times where we are regrouping as a family without technology and without phones and that kind of thing.
yeah,
And but while we have our phones, let's use that time to consume positive things that are going to be beneficial and something that's going to help us out. And yeah,
totally.
I mean, I think that's a great idea, and I think it's something that uh, based on what I've seen with what you've done with Unbounded Pursuit, what you guys are doing, that's something I've definitely seen, and it's a really cool resource, and it's pretty cool. And you guys do a lot of like like gear reviews and like how to videos and that kind of stuff too, right?
Yeah, trying to. Um, I mean, you could obviously probably tell some of my videos were just I don't know. I don't always know a whole ton because I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean it's a learning process. That's exactly what it is.
exactly. And I wanted to point on one last thing on that previous topic is
Yeah,
I'm not saying like video games and pursuing passions and other things are bad. Like you have to be reading a devotional or
right.
Bible 24/7 necessarily. I mean, we need our own little downtime, and you know, especially with this world of technology. That's one thing my wife and I have been talking about is like we don't want our kid to be like a weirdo and not know what a tablet or a video game is
Right.
by any means. Like he watches, we call it show, on the iPad or computer every day, and he loves it.
Yeah.
um I don't want him to go to someone's house and zombie out because he's never seen that before. um but we just try to do it with moderation.
Just like
So
everything, every good thing and every bad thing, I mean, it requires moderation. I mean,
yep,
if you ate nothing but cake all day, of course, that's not going to be good for you, and it's going to have some negative effects. But a piece every once in a while is going to be good for you. It's going to be good
exactly.
for. It's
We
going to be
have
good as far as keeping your sanity and being able to appreciate some of the better things because you got to go through the stuff you don't necessarily want to do, or necessarily that isn't as you know immediately satisfying in order to get to the stuff that you're going to that you really want to do, and you're going to be able to appreciate more.
Exactly. Our bad thing isn't cake though. It's we call it a Cheerio snack. I think it's from my wife's childhood. It's like marshmallows, peanut butter, chocolate chips, and we don't really use Cheerios. We use like corn flakes. And you like melt it all together and stir it up. It's dangerous.
That sounds like it. Holy cow! That sounds that
Like
sounds
just
like it
last
could be
night, I
some
was
trouble.
working on national boards for teaching, or trying to. I've been slacking, but my wife was like, "I'm feeling kind of snackish, you," and I'm like, "Mm-hmm." Give her this weird smirk, and she's like, "Cheerio snack." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So,
See, our thing lately has been cheesecake for us because,
ooh,
man, I've kind of perfected a cheesecake recipe,
yeah.
and I'm kind of wishing I hadn't because now that's all I want to eat. So,
What kind?
so we usually just like put take some strawberries, some like fresh strawberries,
Yeah.
and just kind of slice it and put it on top.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's just a regular, I guess, regular cheesecake. Just put it on top and mix the two together. Man, it's some dangerous stuff.
Do you dairy free or dairy?
Oh, it's dairy. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we're all into it. Yeah.
I don't say that as it's being bad. I had some nose stuff of 5 6 years ago, and they thought it was allergy, so I got pumped with antibiotics, and I can't do dairy anymore.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
Yeah, so we're
That
just fighting.
stinks.
We just found dairy-free cream cheese,
Yeah.
and dairy-free chocolate milk. That stuff is, I mean, it's nothing like the real stuff, but it's been so long since I've drank milk. That chocolate milk is delicious. So
Man, I don't know how I would be able to react to something like that because that's
yeah,
about half of my diet. So
yeah, we got lactose pills.
there you go. There you
Every once in a while, it's like I have to have a piece of that pizza.
go.
So
Of course. But getting back to Unbounded Pursuit.
yeah,
So
sorry.
what's it like? No, you're good. What's it like being able to, have this platform where you're able to reach out to, outdoorsmen, hunters, and anglers, and really reach out to them on a spiritual level and meeting them at the things that they're interested in. What's that like for you? With this whole platform that you're trying to build.
Yeah, I love connecting with people and having relationships. So it's been really fun, especially meeting different people from across the state, because it's probably an area I've driven through or heard about. So when they were talking about it, I kind of have more of an idea, at least what our state's about. And it, at the same time, makes it seem so big yet so small. Um, and like the amount of people that have reached out to me and shot a word of encouragement like, hey, you guys are doing awesome stuff, I really appreciate it, or I watch your lookup verses every Sunday, I love what you're doing, or it's been really cool. And there's one guy that I met in Arizona, and he made a video for us and was just like, if I only reach one person with this episode, I'm happy. And it kind of put a good perspective for me, like, yeah, this is one of those hard things that we've talked about, is like you put in all this effort to try to grow this thing, but you don't want to lose like the focus of what you're trying to do. And so when he said that, it made me think like, maybe the numbers, they're great and all, because it means I'm reaching more people and I'm connecting with more people.
Right.
But if I'm just helping change one person's life in a positive way, that's good enough for me.
Absolutely.
So it's been really great, and I go in these ways of like you're gung ho constantly doing it, and then I'm like, man, I'm on my phone way too much, and I'm kind of getting tired of posting stuff, like, and then I don't post for like 2 or 3 days. And before I was like, okay, 6 o'clock every night or twice a day or whatever, boost that reach, boost that whatever numbers, engagement or whatever. Um, and now it's like, I'm gonna try to post a little more quality, and like I'm gonna try to share a little more with my life, maybe more on stories and better actual posts and stuff. But it's always changing.
Yeah, what you're alluding to, the I call it the one person rule. I mean, that's really what it is that, you know, we can spend all this effort and all this time and, trying to build something, trying to make something where, you have thousands of people, hopefully that are interacting with you on a daily basis. But down on the surface level, I mean, what really matters is that first person. It's that one
Hmm.
person, because one person is eventually going to, if you truly make an impact in that one person's life, and hopefully they're going to tell somebody else, and then you have two people, and then
Yeah.
eventually they're going to hopefully tell people, if you're making an impact and you're doing it for the right reasons, your intentions are in the right place, and you're doing it with the right heart. And I think that one person rule, trying to help that one person that needs it the most, I think is a good tactic to kind of work by. And that's something that I was dealing with something very similar to what you were saying just last year, because I actually started this podcast. I guess it was in the spring of last year, so I think it's just over a year now.
Hmm.
But I started this, and I was going hard with it for a while. Numbers were going up and it was going good, but eventually I just got worn down. And then October came around, and my father passed away, and that everything after that, I took about like 6 months off. And I was like, man, I just gotta, just kind of reevaluate, like, what do I want to actually do with this, and what is it that I want to actually accomplish with this? Is it to reach thousands of people just to say I did that, or is it to actually help people and to change people's lives, and to give them, some hope, and be able to reach them in an area that they are interested in. Being an outdoorsman and being somebody who enjoys hunting, it's like that's what I do whenever I have free time. Other
Hmm.
than spending time with my wife and my kids. If it's hunting season, I'm going hunting. So, like, why not bring my faith and bring the things that I'm interested in, take those out there with me, and be able to share with other people, the kind of impact that hunting and being outdoors and experiencing God in the outdoors is able to do for me. And
Hmm.
that's that's really cool that you mentioned that, because that's something that, like I said, I struggled with from, I guess it was, I posted one episode in November, and then from the middle of November until about the middle of March, I didn't post anything. I just took an extended break. I wanted to come back in January, but I was like, man, I just need more time. And just, I
Yeah.
think having that clarity and having that time off, it allows you to kind of reevaluate, what you want to do, and the impact that you're actually trying to make. And
Hmm.
that's so I can definitely relate with you as far as that goes.
And that's what's been really awesome with my wife as well is, a couple different times now, especially lately, because she's really, I guess, trying to learn more. She's asked me, like, what's your purpose? What's your mission? Like,
Hmm.
share it with me again. And so it kind of helps me reflect again and really try to, like, focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing, is like, for so long, in my prayers, I would ask God, show me my purpose. What's my purpose, and what is it that I want to do, or what is it that you want me to do? And that's and then actually here recently, I just had this. I guess I wouldn't call it a struggle. I just had this, I guess, kind of a revelation in my heart. It's just like, do Jesus's purpose. However you want to do it that way. Like, Jesus came for a purpose, fulfill that purpose doing what you're doing.
Hmm.
Hopefully that makes sense. But of course, in I think it's Colossians tells us that whatever we do, do it for the glory of God. It doesn't say, if you want to do a podcast, do it for the glory of God. If you want to,
Yeah.
teach, do it for the glory of God. If you want to, sell hot dogs on the side of the road, whatever it says, whatever it is, no matter what it is, do it for the glory of God. So find something that you're passionate about, and of course, pursue it, as if you're working for God, as if you're being, God's employee. And that's a conversation I had with, Chad Davis. He's the guy with Bow Addicts. He's a real great guy, by the way. But we kind of talked about, being God's employee and being somebody that, when we just surrender everything over to Him, and just kind of let Him just kind of take it over, and we're just, at that point, we're just His employee. So he's our boss, and we're just doing
Yep.
what He tells us to do. We're just, you know, we're listening to Jesus and doing what He tells us to do. So I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of what you have these, like you were mentioning a minute ago, these lookup series, these
Yeah.
videos. So, what's the idea behind that? That's from the ones I've seen. It's really cool, and I'm hoping to get one filmed for you here soon and be able to put one out there for you.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and I'd love to have that. And just there's a couple other people that are repeat offenders that have sent me a second one, and one guy who wants to even send me a third, which is
Awesome.
awesome because the goal that I'm trying to hit, speaking of numbers, is it would be cool to have one a week for a year, so 52. I think we got about 24 with more people wanting to do it, and so that's the first goal, and then it would be sweet to have one a day. Someone could just pop on a 4 or 5 minute video, listen to it in the morning. Different person, different perspectives. So, but to back up, I was just trying to think of, I'm connecting with all these people. All these people want to share their passion for Christ and the outdoors to some extent. So, how can I do this? And it's in a time that I was really trying to like grow our YouTube channel. And I was like, well, what's something that people are going to be able to come back to? Because I can post it on Instagram, but when you're posting daily or every other day or so, that's going to be gone in 2, 3 weeks. People aren't going to scroll back that far.
Right.
Um, and if people wanted to listen to it again, I didn't want them to have to search real hard. So then I was like, man, what if people just sent me videos they can share and they have a platform to share it on? And then I kind of started a small group, DM group on Instagram, and I asked all of these people, and it was pretty well received. People were like, I'll do one, I'll do one, I'll do one. And I was like, man, this is awesome. And so it kind of all just started there. And like I said, we're almost halfway already, and it's been like every Sunday for 4 months now,
That's really
five
cool.
months. So it's
So
just
basically,
cranking
what it
along.
is it just like a video? You know, have somebody on there, they share a verse, give a little message, and just basically to offer some kind of encouragement on
Yeah.
Sundays.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're good. Yeah.
So the each episode is from a specific person that they're either sharing their favorite verses or verses that mean a lot to them. Um, like I started off the series with Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9. Those are
Yeah.
my favorite verses, and they are, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." Um, so I would start with introducing myself, read those two verses, and then explain why they mean a lot to me or why they're my favorite. Um, and so that's what um, every episode has been since, is someone else saying who they are, and then a 2 to 4, maybe 5 minute video. Some people have done longer, um, but I try to keep it 2 to 4 or 5 minutes because a lot of people, they're not going to sit there and watch the whole thing. So if it's shorter, maybe it would increase the chances of people staying on longer to hear the whole message instead of getting off early. But yeah, it's just people, someone else can have those same two verses, but have a whole completely different perspective than what I had, or it means
Right.
something different to them than what it means to me. And so I want to be able to like share those with other people because maybe that was your two favorite verses, and you're like, well, that wasn't anything that I would have thought those to be. This is what it means to me. Well, now we can start learning and having discussions, and um, people can deepen their faith and their relationship with God because of that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's an important point to make is that you know whenever we're reading God's word, it's a two-way conversation. At least I hope it is. That we have, we have our prayer that we are talking to God, and then God's talking back through us through His word. And we may hear the same message, but hear it differently, or we may read the same thing, but we perceive it differently based on some experiences that we have going
Hmm.
on in our life and some of
Life
the context
experiences.
exactly. And then, yeah, I think that's definitely a good point to make. So, what's some of the impact that you've seen, maybe in your own personal journey of your faith, and maybe in some people in your followers or in your community? What kind of impact have you seen from these lookup verse series videos that you've been able to put out there?
Well, it's interesting because, I was connecting with a lot of different people talking about hunting and gear and all kinds of things, and I really appreciate all those conversations and people. But it seems like lately it's been more people like you, people that have this deep passion for Christ in the outdoors. This is what both of us are about with our platforms. It keeps coming back to this. And so now I've been talking to people like that. And, one guy was like, I haven't been going to church, or I haven't been learning. What can I start? And, um, there's apps, and there's just different translations of Bibles, and where to start to learn in general. Um, and people sending messages like, "Hey, I'm watching this every Sunday," which is super helpful because, people might think, "Oh, they're not going to care I think this," but when I'm feeling tired of posting all the time, and then you hear that, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is why I'm doing it."
Yeah,
Um, so my relationships of people I've been talking to have been definitely revolving around this, and having more conversations about what we believe and why we believe it, which has just been really cool. And it's helped me be more consistent with reading, doing devotionals, because it's so easy to grab something, throw it up, and to keep going through life and not like remembering to read. And so, when I'm sharing stuff, I need to be reading a ton and really doing my research. I can't just be putting up random garbage.
right. They say
Um,
that the best way to learn is by teaching. So you gotta put yourself through the teaching process, or I'm sorry, through the learning process first before you're actually able to teach somebody else.
exactly.
Yeah,
So it's helped deepen my relationship with God for sure, because I don't want to be sharing false stuff or inaccurate information. So I've been reading more than ever, and praying more than ever, and trying to talk about it more, because we even changed our logo 7, 8 months ago or so. It used to be like a mountain with a dude with a shotgun and one with a bow or whatever. Um, and that guy I talked to you about earlier from Arizona, David Thompson, um, I was kind of telling him like, hey, I just feel like this is the direction I want to go now. I don't want to look like some fancy hunter. I want to share about God and then about hunting
hmm,
and what I'm learning. And so I'm thinking about changing the logo, and boom, get a message. What about this? And I was like, that's it. We're doing it, man. Can I use this? He was like, really? No, this ain't that good. I'm like, this is awesome, man. I want people, before we had a little cross, like we didn't want to be too out there because I feel like it turns people off. I'm like, I don't care about that anymore. I want people to know right from the get go, like the cross this is what it is, and kind of the mountains in the background. So yeah.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome that you've committed this to helping people follow Jesus, be able to help people pursue their relationships with God. That's really cool. But man, as we are, approaching our time here, I definitely want to respect your time, and I appreciate you being on. But I got a few questions that I
Yeah,
wanted
totally.
to ask you real quick. So this is a question that I always ask my guests on the show, and I got a wide range of question, or I'm sorry, a wide range of answers to this question. So I always love hearing what you guys have to say. So my question for you is, what does hunting mean to you?
I've been thinking about that a lot because that is a very hard question, it seems um like I said before, I was kind of a hobby jumper, and now this is just what I do. And yeah, people can take those traditions and stuff for granted, but and I might have already ruined my son. He was 3 last year and watched me shoot a bear and spot and stalk turkeys. He was with me the whole time. So he's growing up when I'm hungry for it and hungry for learning and getting out there, and he's being a part of it. So I guess being able to pass that down to him and just the love for the outdoors and appreciating that we get to be out in God's creation and look how amazing this is. Like we just found a whole new area 2 weeks ago and I'm like, this is humongous. There's so much ground. It's amazing. And it's just like there's no way you can explore even all of one state thoroughly. It's So, I mean, just being able to get outside, learn new things, and pass down knowledge. And that's been a big thing about Unbounded Pursuit is to learn, to grow, and to share.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And of course, I wanted you to I wanted to have you on the show so that my listeners could come check out what you got going on with Unbounded Pursuit. So, where can people find you? Where can they find Unbounded Pursuit and everything that you're doing?
So, the main one is Instagram. I just have it linked to Facebook. So, whatever I post on Instagram goes straight to Facebook. But I have it because I know a lot of people don't have Instagram or Instapage. And then YouTube as well. And all of them are just Unbounded Pursuit. So it's pretty easy to find.
Awesome. I'll make sure that I put all those links, making sure I'm putting them down, writing them down here. That way I can get those for you. I'll put all those links in the show notes. That way people, if they are interested, they want to check out what you're doing, they can just click on those links and they'll take them right to your page. So, man, I appreciate you being on here today, AJ. Thank you so much for being on the Rise Kill Eat podcast. And
Thanks
this
for
was
having
a real fun conversation, man. Thank you.
Yeah, this was a blast. If you want to do more, let me know.
All right, man. Awesome.